Hey everyone, thank you guys for clicking on this video. My name is Ryan, and today on the channel I'm going to be talking about an action film called Den of Thieves 2 Pantera. This film was directed by Christian Gudegast, and he's also done the first Den of Thieves films, and he hasn't done anything else, just focused on these two films. The film stars Gerard Butler and O'Shea Jackson Jr., both reprising their roles from the first film. Now, what is this film ultimately about? Well, it's about Nick, Gerard Butler's character, who is going into France, and he's trying to track down Donnie, who is now part of a big game of doing these diamond heists, and they're planning to do another diamond heist, and Nick wants to stop him. Now, before I start to talk about this movie, there's one major shakeup in this movie, and I didn't watch a trailer going into this film, but with Nick's character, in the first film, he's a part of the cops. And in the beginning of this film, he is a part of the cops as well, but he ends up switching sides, which they do show in the trailer, so I'm not spoiling it, and he decides to team up with O'Shea Jackson's character, Donnie, to do this diamond heist. Now, this movie, it's taken 7 years to come out, and the reason for the delay I actually read, because I was wondering, why the heck did this take 7 years to actually come out? And the reason for this is COVID, for one. There was the Ukraine war, because they were going to film this in Ukraine, and they decided to switch it to France at last minute. And then also somebody in the main cast actually tore up their knee, which actually delayed the production for over a year in that aspect. So that's why this took 7 years to come out. And I honestly think it is something that is definitely shown as to when you delay a movie this long, that it's just not that good. But from a positive standpoint, I will say this. This movie is shot well. They definitely elevated how they actually shot the film. Being in Europe and France, the landscapes and the city shots here, they're undeniably very good throughout this film. There's plenty of different shots within the landscaping here that they do a really good job, really showcasing the city. And I actually really did enjoy that from a filmmaking aspect. Now, from the chemistry of O'Shea Jackson Jr. and Gerard Butler, it's still there. It's no denying the fact that they have great chemistry on screen. Their acting is very well in this film, and I enjoy seeing them on screen, whether it's joking around, whether it's they're playing their cat and mouse game. I really enjoy it, and I definitely enjoyed the fact of seeing both of them on screen again. Gerard Butler's character in the first film, he was really funny, had a lot of comedy, and kind of a jackass as well, which I really love that about the first film. He has that here a little bit, but not as much as you would see in the first film. What really didn't work for me in this film is it's ultimately a slow burn film. It is 2.5 hours, and the first film is the same amount of runtime as well, but I think they utilized the runtime a lot better in that first film. With this one, I just didn't think they really utilized the runtime very much. I think that a lot of times there's just too much really not going on in this film. It's just very slow to really get going. It's a very talky, dialogue-driven kind of film. And Nick's character, he's teaming up with O'Shea Jackson here, and they're planning this diamond heist. There's a bunch of new characters, and to be honest, all the new characters are really boring. I could not care less about any of them. There's this one woman that is a part of the operation named Cleopatra. She helps, take care of this operation and help them, get into this diamond place that they're going to actually rob. She's easy on the eye. She's nice to look at. But other than that, all the other new characters, I didn't care for whatsoever. I felt like at times there were wasted scenes in here. There's one scene where O'Shea and Gerard are actually at a party. They're getting high. They're getting drunk. They get kicked out of this party after getting into a fight. They have these cops that are presumably going to arrest them. There's some joke about croissants. They ride away drunk on these scooters and crash. They go to have some dinner, like late night dinner, and then they cut to the next scene like that fight never happened. And that's just one example of wasted scenes throughout the entirety of this film. I just feel like the runtime and the pacing of this film, it's just not justified for what this story actually is. If you're looking for shoot 'em up action and you're looking for quite a bit of action throughout this film, you're not going to find it whatsoever. The diamond heist, it happens around an hour and a half of this film, which is right on line of like the bank robbery in the first film. But the problem is, even though it is an hour and a half to get to that point, even within the first film. At least in the first film, there's some actual plot points within Nick's character and with Donnie's character and some of the other villains that are going to actually rob this bank, where they actually have charisma, which I don't think these guys have as much charisma as the first film. And I think that's the problem with this film, is even though it still takes an hour and a half to get to that time, you're already bored out of your mind at that point. So then when we get into the diamond heist, to me, it's just dull as dishwater. It's the only words I can actually come up with this whole diamond heist, because it's just not interesting whatsoever. After they get out of this diamond heist, there is one action scene, and by the time they get to this action scene, which involves a car chase, it is 2 hours into the movie. And I will say it's a very well done car chase scene, but it just takes a long time to get there. And that's the biggest problem that I have with this film, is I just feel like it's just not an entertaining film. I have seen people that really agree with me online, and then I've seen other people that really enjoy this, and more power to those people. But this movie was just a drag. I just felt the runtime throughout the entirety of this film. I really wish it was a better film, but even a lot of times throughout this film, when I was just sitting there kind of bored and almost wanting to fall asleep, they give us some landscape shots, and I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. But I just felt like this film was very much way over the runtime for what the story actually was. And it definitely suffers from the fact that this has been sitting there for 7 years, finally going into production and coming out just now in 2025, and it definitely shows. And it's a shame, because it's definitely a well-made film from just the filming aspect and just upping the budget to sit there and go over to Europe and give us really good shots and give us a very good setting. But I don't like the fact that we completely 180'd the characters here, especially with Nick going to team up with him. Like, that was not the purpose of the original film. He was going after him because he was the good guy, and then now he turns to a bad guy. So then you lack that tension of the film, because even with the cops here, they're barely around in this film, and they don't really do a whole lot. And even with some of those other cops that are involved in the story, it's just not that exciting. It's not as thrilling. It just feels so dull. I can't say anything really beyond the fact of that, because like I said, this is dull as dishwater. There's nothing else I can really say to convince anybody to really check out this film. I really wish I could have liked this film. As far as the score for this film, I would give it a 2 out of 5. It just wasn't there for me. It's a shame, because I really love that first film. I hate the fact that this was nowhere even near the first film. And I just sat there just scratching my head as the credits rolled. Like, how could this have been that bad? I didn't expect it whatsoever. And I didn't expect it to be that boring either. And if I would have watched the trailer, I guess I would have known about Nick's character making the switch. But that was a surprise to me, because, like I said, I didn't watch the trailer going into this film. So overall for me, this is just a big disappointment. Let me know down in the comments, what did you think about this film? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you just think it was kind of meh? Thank you guys for watching as always, and I will see you guys next time.